to the Web of Deception with Dave Kranzler and Rory Hall. And today is Monday, February the 16th, 2015. And today we're going to cover the complete breakdown of all economic activity. And let's get started. According to dailyjobcuts.com, within the last week, there's been well over 25,000 jobs to be cut in the United States. And they have one figure from February the 12th stating that global oil layoffs exceed 100,000. And within that 25,000 number that I just stated, on Valentine's Day, happy Valentine's, United Airlines laid off 1,150 from 16 different U.S. airports. Tesco International up to 10,000. And our friends down at Halliburton, they're laying off somewhere between 5,000 and 6,500. They haven't quite figured out how many they're going to cut loose yet. And another international, Finmensico or something like that, plans on 3,000 layoffs. And just to give you an idea of how the good jobs are all disappearing. But if you like to wait tables, there's plenty of those. And they'll be disappearing soon too. So we wanted to get into the Baltic Dry Index because it's hit its all-time low of 522. And why don't you guide us through that, Dave, real quick?
Yeah, so despite the fact that the U.S. markets are closed today, Europe and the rest of the world are open, and the Baltic Dry Index hit 522. As recently as about 18 months ago, this thing was over 2,000. So we've had just an absolute collapse in the Baltic Dry Index. And this is significant because container shipping measures the degree of global demand from consumers for consumable goods, durable goods, etc. And this is, and the United States is the biggest consumer in the world. So if the Baltic Index is tanking like this, it means that there's been a structural decline in the level of consumption in this country, even though our media and our political leaders and Wall Street does a great job of spinning all the numbers and trying to cover up the truth. The truth is represented by the Baltic Dry Index.
And that number still hasn't been manipulated and to quote someone else, has been bastardized into oblivion. So that number is, I would still say that it's fairly accurate, wouldn't you, Dave?
Well, it's an index that measures the cost of renting out container space to ship something. You know, if you're an automobile manufacturer, you're shipping your cars, from Germany or Japan or Korea to the United States. What's the cost of shipping that? So that's what it's an index that measures the cost of shipping. Now, as I mentioned last week, there is some component of supply in that, but even if there's excess supply, if there was demand, that supply would still be getting used up, and you wouldn't see price declines like this. And to reinforce just the incredible drop in this index and how it represents the drop in the overall level of global economic activity is the price of oil. I mean, the price of oil is down over 40% since July.
And still dropping.
And it's still going to go lower. I mean, the inventory supply of oil keeps climbing because all of these shale companies are still producing oil because they're all gonna. It's a prisoner's dilemma. If they all just stop producing, you might get a bounce in the price of oil, but they all have to generate cash to service all the debt that they've issued in the last few years. I wrote an article, I don't know, maybe back in early December or sometime in November, where I basically suggested that the drop in the price of oil like this, it's really just the collapse in the price of oil, may in fact be that black swan that everyone was looking for. And I read an article today where it pointed out specifically that there was not one analyst on Wall Street who was looking for a decline in the price of oil like this. So that means that the market wasn't expecting it. But the decline in the price of oil like this, yeah, it's because there's a lot more supply than there was a year ago, but there's a lot more supply because there's a lot less demand for it. And that's globally as well as here in the United States, because our economy is not improving.
And once again, we are either the first or the second largest consumer economy in the world. So,
Well, we're the largest user of oil.
yes, by far. Speaking of shipping, Greece, that's one of their main drivers of their economy. Gross domestic product comes from. And Varoufakis and the EU were meeting earlier today, and it didn't go very well from what I've read. And some ultimatums were given out, and it looks like they're going to reconvene on Friday, maybe earlier. And what do you think there, Dave? What do you think is going to happen?
Again, in terms of what I think is going to be the outcome, point B from point A is that I think they're going to reach some sort of mutually agreeable settlement that keeps Greece in the EU. And I think a lot of this is just grandstanding, political jawboning. But to a degree, Rory, as you and I were discussing a little earlier, the more I think about this, the more I think Greece has a little bit of edge here at the bargaining table. And it's not just because Russia's there in the background saying, we'll help you out. Greece knows that if they leave the EU and default on all of their sovereign debt, it's not only going to be an issue for the entities that hold that debt, it's going to be an even bigger issue for the entities that hold the derivatives that are connected to that debt. Because if the amount of debt outstanding is X, the derivative factor is at least 3 to 5x.
At least.
Right. So and that's how derivatives operate. And so for that reason, I think ultimately, and I'm sure Greece knows this, Greece has a slightly stronger hand here, and it's reinforced by the fact that if they can't reach an agreement with the EU, Russia's there to make sure that the country doesn't collapse. Now, who knows what kind of terms Russia's going to exact out of them. And again, I think in the short term, it's not going to be the easiest solution for Greece to leave the EU. In the long term, I think it's their best solution. But politicians don't like to cause their constituents pain. So the easiest short-term solution here is just to kick the can down the road. And I ultimately think, despite all the jawboning and hot air coming from the politicians, I ultimately think they're going to reach a settlement.
Well, I don't know that they are going to reach a settlement, and I still think that Varoufakis is looking out for. I think he's got something in his back pocket that hasn't yet to be seen. They could reintroduce the drachma and back it with a hard asset, either gold or silver. I know that a lot of their gold went away. I think they had like 133 tons or something like that. I'll have to dig it out to see if they still got that or not.
That's been hypothecated. Forget it.
You're probably right. But I know that Hugo Salinas Price met with Greece back in 2012 and was talking with them regarding backing the drachma with silver and reintroducing the drachma at that point. So
I'm sure they didn't listen to good sense like that.
Well, unfortunately,
would have made too much sense.
Yeah, so that's what I'm still thinking that Varoufakis has got something like that that he's working on. So I don't want him to give up, but I don't want him to give in either.
Well, I'd be surprised if they're working on something like that, but you never know. We're like Hannity and Combs with our differing views over the Greece situation. I love it.
Oh, that's why.
Siskel and Ebert.
That's it. Well, it's different viewpoints. So, well, is there anything else that we need to bring to the table today, Dave?
I just wanted to mention a couple things here. I posted an article on my blog, Investment Research Dynamics, titled Tactical Financial Nuclear Bombs, and I go over a recent new derivatives on top of derivatives product that Goldman Sachs introduced,
Yes.
and it was in a Bloomberg report last week, but I haven't seen anyone else talk about it. And I run through how this product works and why ultimately this is going to lead to a bigger explosion in our financial system than happened in 2008. And then secondly, I've re-released a home builder report. I've updated it for the company's latest quarterly results. And originally I was looking for this stock to do about a 40% rate of return for 2015 to the short side. I think there's a chance this company could hit the wall. I mean, they're burning cash like crazy. Right now, they're burning cash at a faster rate than they've got cash left on their balance sheet, and they're getting their sales are getting blowtorched by the collapse in the oil economy. So I just wanted to mention those two items.
All right.
You have anything else?
Well, I've got an article that I just posted called "If You Were Bankrupt," and it goes into a little bit of what I was saying as far as Greece backing the drachma with silver, and that's over at thedailycoin.org. So check that out. But other than that, Dave, I guess we'll wrap it up right there and pick it up in a day or so.
That sounds great.
All right, buddy.
Speak to you then, Rory.
All right, man.